I think I'm on. Okay, good morning. It's so good seeing you. We're going to miss these two girls, but it's good seeing you this morning. Happy 4th of July. Happy Sabbath. So I got a story today. When our kids grew up, we always liked mission stories. We were into mission stories, and so I've got a mission story for you. Now, don't you go near that old pagoda. Old pagoda? There's 2 pythons in it. Pythons? Yeah. Yes, don't you know those 2 pythons? They're bigger than a house. That's a big snake. But there's a treasure that's buried in that pagoda. There's a treasure. What? A treasure? Old pagoda? 2 pythons? Oh, I know you don't believe me. You believe me? I know you don't believe me. Well, I will tell you all about it. So today, do you know who this guy is? No. Okay. I know there's some people out there know. Anybody know who this person is? Is there anybody out there? Eric be here? He was a missionary in Burma, and he had stories about experiences there, wonderful stories. And today I'm going to tell you about the treasure from the old haunted pagoda. And so anyway, this was long before us. So they were traveling, when they came to Burma, they were traveling up this river, right up here, by probably this canoe, something like that. And they went 100 miles all the way up this river here to the mission station. And they really enjoyed their ride because look at the jungles and the water and the beauty of the jungles and everything, and it really fascinated them. So they were enjoying their trip there. When they got to the mission station, they were walking around, and there was a dispensary. Does anybody know what a dispensary is? A clinic, like a little clinic. There was a little clinic there, and there was some huts there. And their walls weren't made with plaster like this. They were mats that were probably weaved from the bulrushes from the river. And they were making a bungalow, which was probably for the missionaries. And on the north side of the mission property was a pagoda. And that is where our story takes place. An old lady was following them, and she said, "Don't go near that pagoda, there's pythons there." She said, "Let's sit down, I will tell you all about it." So they were just newcomers, and they wanted to know what this pagoda was and what the story was about. So they were interested in drawing close. She knew she had an audience, and she goes, "Shh, shh." She got, "Be quiet, I'll tell it to you quietly." She said it was years and years ago, before the white men came to Burma. This was a big Shan village. So it was a big village where they were at. And do you see the opposite side of the river? There was another village there. And that village was the Talang village. And she said, "We never got along. We didn't get along with them. We would quarrel and they would argue. And the river was between them. They said, 'If you come across that river, we're going to kill you.'" So they were serious. They just didn't get along. And in that village, they had built themselves 33 pagodas. And it was kind of a spiritual type thing. And because they were Buddhists, and it was kind of a spiritual type of a thing. And they built 33. So they were known as the village of the 33 pagodas. Well, the Shan village didn't have any pagodas. But they planted coconut trees. So they planted some coconut trees. And they were known for the village of the cluster of coconut palms. And in Burmese, it was called Wandwa. So their village was known as Wandwa, the village of the coconut palms. Look at all those coconut palms. And they would climb up there, and they would get the coconut palms. Well, years passed, and still the villagers quarreled. they just didn't all get along. And finally, an old man says, I know what. We will make the spirits happy. We will build ourselves our own pagoda. We will have our own pagoda. And so all the villagers were saying, I think that's what we should do. And it pleased them because they said, then we'll get along with our neighbors because we also have a pagoda and the spirits will be happy. And so they started to work. And they were building bricks out of mud. Probably not like this brick. This is heavy. But they were building bricks out of mud, and they brought rocks, and they brought all sorts of things. They brought all sorts of things to build this pagoda. And they had built it, and pretty soon it was close to be done. I'm a little ahead of my story. I'll go back to the trees. And they were putting the finishing, crowning touches on it, the steeple and everything, and treasure. There was supposedly was a treasure inside of it. And so they were going to have a big celebration. They were going to have food, and they were going to be dancing. They were going to have music and instruments. They were going to have a great time because now the spirits will be happy, and they would have their own pagoda. But wouldn't you know it? The night before their big celebration, a huge storm came. And it blew, the wind blew, and it lightened, and it rained, and it thundered. And in the morning when they got up, their pagoda was broken down. Kind of reminded me like the Tower of Babel, when the lightning struck. And anyway, but their pagoda broke down. But, they go, we're not going to be discouraged. We won't feel sad. We're going to just build it up again. So they got working. Everybody got working, and they built it back up again. And they said, we will have our celebration, and the spirits will be happy. Well, wouldn't you know it? Just before their celebration, the second time, that big, terrible storm came again, and it knocked down the pagoda. This time they go, the spirits are not happy with us. We're not going to go near that. And some people were really afraid. They rolled up their mats, and their chickens, they tied their legs together with string, and their pigs, they tied their legs together. They flung them over their back, and they fled through the jungle. They were going to get away because they were afraid that the spirits will get them. Well, the village elders said, we will get a priest to come and curse the pagoda. So anybody who comes near it and tries to get the treasure out of it, they will die. And so everybody said that it was cursed. So the rains came year after year, and it went year after year. So that was the tradition of what happened with that pagoda. And as in the tropics, when it rains, everybody knows the tropics, everything grows really fast. The grass and the vines and everything, and it almost hit the pagoda. I mean, it hit it from view. So nobody could find it. And the villagers were still afraid of it. And they made their road a long ways around it so that they didn't go near the pagoda. And some hunters, they were brave. We were brave. And they would hunt near it. And they came back and said, we saw 2 big snakes there protecting the pagoda, 2 big pythons. Don't go anywhere near that. And that's why the village, or the little old lady said, don't go near the old pagoda. There are 2 big pythons there, and they are big. And so they didn't go there. And so she sat back and she goes, I wonder how these newcomers are going to react to this story, to what I'm telling them. And they said, we're not afraid of spirits. We're not afraid of pythons. And so they said, we will want to go see what this is. And so they walked around it. And let's see, you can see. Now this one here has a whole lot of pagodas. But I couldn't find one with a single one. You could see how it's ruined and it's broken down and stuff. And here are the snakes. And so they walked around the pagoda, and they didn't see any snakes. And they didn't feel any curse. He goes, We don't believe in those evil spirits, and there was no snakes. So they went on, and they were working with the people. And so one day, they said to them, during the rainy season, it really rains a lot. It rains heavy. And the rivers are muddy. And that's where they got their drinking water. And they said, why don't we build ourselves a well? We'll dig ourselves a well, a hand-dug well. And so the missionaries and their helpers, they decided they're going to go dig themselves a well. And so they were digging a well, and it was like 38 feet down. It was a deep well. But wouldn't you know it, they got some clear, cold water, and they were so excited. Well, Peter, one of the helpers, came running to the missionary, and he says, oh, wouldn't you know it, the ground is so soft. Our well is caving in. All the work that we've done, it's all caving in. There's no good anymore. Our well is caving in. And so what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And they says, well, you know what? We are going to have to get some bricks to line that well and line it so that it won't cave in. But we're going to have to go down the river by canoe, by boat, and it's going to take 10 days to 2 weeks till we get back. And they go, oh my, the well's going to be all caved in, and all our work is going to be in vain. And then somebody goes, you know what? The old pagoda. What was the old pagoda made out of? Bricks. So they went out to the old pagoda, and they looked, and they found bricks, good bricks, solid bricks, 5,000. I was a little surprised. They said they found 5,000 bricks there, and they got sacks, and they filled their sacks with these bricks. They brought them back, and they lined their well. And they said, you know what? It seems that the Lord had those bricks especially made for us, because he knew that someday we would have a mission station here. We would have a well, and we would need those bricks. But the Bible says that before we speak, he knows our needs, and he'll answer. I think he answered before they knew it, even before they were born. So just remember, the Lord is over us there. He knows your needs. You can go back.